On this week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker, men's basketball competed in the Sweet 16 rematch with Nevada, and RSL reporter Ioanna Kekatos has a Chicago close-up on Brandon Saad.
Also, Lindsey Brewis made Rambler history at the NCAA Cross Country Championships, and Ramble host Nick Schultz and his Ramble analysts discuss what the Bulls should do this season. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker. I'm Epiphany Jonikin.
And I'm Patricia Martinez. On November 16th, the Ramblers added another win for the season against Grambling State, 80-64, as part of the Fort Myers tip-off in the Gentile Arena. Sophomore Cameron Krutwig knocked down 8 of 10 shots, finishing with a team high of 19 points with 7 rebounds. Redshirt senior Clayton Custer contributed 17 points, meanwhile redshirt senior Marcus Towns added 16 points of his own. Sophomore guard Lucas Williamson brought in 9 rebounds and 3 points. On November 19th, the Ramblers traveled to Fort Myers, Florida, sweeping a victory against Richmond 82-68. Williamson scored a career best at 23 points, knocking down 9 of 11 shots from the field. Towns kept his rhythm going, bringing in 15 points. Meanwhile, Custer added 13 points and 4 assists to the overall score. Freshman guard Isaiah Bujoso played his best game yet as a Rambler, bringing in 11 points off the bench. On the same day, Krutwig was named Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Player of the Week. Krutwig has nearly averaged a double-double, totaling 18.5 points and 9.0 rebounds, in addition to 1.5 assists and 2.5 blocks per game. In the championship game of the Fort Myers tip-off on November 21st, the Ramblers fell short against Boston College 78-66, breaking their 3-game winning streak. Krutwig contributed 14 points as Towns added another 10 points, 3 assists, and 2 steals for the team. Custer scored a team-high 17 points to lead Loyola, adding 3 rebounds and 3 assists and 4 steals. Despite the Ramblers' loss, Williamson was named the Fort Myers tip-off all-tournament team, producing 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. On Tuesday, November 27th, Loyola hosted the Nevada Wolfpack in Sweet 16 rematch. RSL reporter Moran has the game recap.
I'm here on the floor of Gentile Arena after the Loyola Ramblers took on the Nevada Wolfpack in a Sweet 16 rematch. Now, unfortunately, the Ramblers were not able to meet to the fans' expectations as they got off to a really slow start early and were never able to quite come back into the game. In the first half, with just 12 minutes left to play, the Ramblers were already down 25-7 when Porter Moser called his second timeout of the game. The Ramblers then were able to come back, and it was 44-28 at the end of the first half. In the second half, the Ramblers were able to kind of come back, but unfortunately it was not enough as they fell down 79-65. There were some bright spots, however, throughout the game, as redshirt senior guard Marcus Towns had a huge game with 24 points and 9 rebounds. And Clayton Custer and Cooper Kefis both recorded double-digit points, as Kefis had 11 points and Custer had 10. The Ramblers just shot 43% from the field goal range and 35% from the three-point range, which unfortunately was not enough. Now, despite the Ramblers' tough showing, the Ramblers were still able to get the fans excited, as throughout the entire game, fans were loud and on their feet. The Ramblers will travel to UIC to take on the Flames this Saturday at 3:12 p.m. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Moran.
Thanks, Eric. Loyola is now 4-3 on the season and will next compete against UIC this Saturday, December 1st.
On Saturday, November 17th, freshman guard Janae Gonzalez led the women's basketball team into victory over the UIC Flames, 75-60. Despite trailing the Flames in points during the first half, the Ramblers had a successful comeback during the second half. During the fourth quarter, the Ramblers began shooting 70% from the field and just under 94% from the free throw line. Gonzalez poured in a season best of 17 points on 7 of 11 shooting, which later earned her the title of MVC Newcomer of the Week. The team's efforts led to Loyola's first road win of the season. On Tuesday, November 20th, the Ramblers continued their road trip against Bowling Green. The Ramblers played catch-up the entire game and never managed to take the lead. They lost with a score of 88-74. Despite the Ramblers' loss, sophomore guard Ellie Rice scored 18 points. Loyola returned home to Gentile Arena this past Monday, November 26th, to compete against Chicago State. The Ramblers picked up another win, which was led by Allison Day's 17 points. Loyola finished the game with the final score of 76-40. The team is now 4-2 on the season and will compete against Western Michigan on Monday, December 3rd.
The Blackhawks have been making headlines recently with the firing of their head coach, but other players are also in the spotlight. RSL reporter Ioanna Kekatos has this week's Chicago close-up on Brandon Saad.
On this week's Chicago close-up, I'll be taking a closer look at Blackhawks left winger Brandon Saad. Brandon Saad won the Stanley Cup with the Blackhawks in 2013 and 2015 and is starting to look like the player we all remember. The young gun forward from Pittsburgh who helped the team bring home 2 Stanley Cup championships. In his last 11 games, he has put up 9 points, notching 7 goals and 2 assists. Given his slow start to the season, only tallying 2 assists in his first 8 games, it seems he has found his rhythm. Unfortunately, he was forced to miss a couple games on the last road trip due to an injury he sustained in practice. After catching a puck to the face, he spent about 2 to 3 hours at the dentist and received 15 stitches. The injury does require him to wear a fishbowl helmet until he is fully recovered. Although luckily for the Hawks, it doesn't seem to be affecting his play-making ability whatsoever. Blackhawks head coach Jeremy Colliton is relying on Saad more and more. Even with a few inconsistencies, he has still proven he deserves to be in the lineup every night. And while there are almost 60 games left in the regular season, it sure looks as though number 20 could be what the team needs to get back in the win column. We will continue to watch the Blackhawks and Saad and hope for a better rest of the season. I'm Ioanna Kekatos, back to you at the desk.
On Wednesday, November 16th, the women's volleyball team scored a victory against Southern Illinois with a final score of 3-0, sweeping the season series from the Salukis and keeping their MVC tournament's hopes well alive. Senior Morgan Greshman and junior Quint Speaker both tied for the team lead with 11 kills. Meanwhile, junior Delilah Wolf posted 42 assists, taking her into a .288 attack. The Ramblers now stand with 5 players on the roster carrying 200 or more this season. The following day, Thursday, November 17th, the season came to an end after the Ramblers fell short with a final score of 0-3 against Missouri State in Springfield, Montana. Despite their loss, Speaker left it all on the court, recording a team high of 8 kills. Freshman totaled 9 digs and 6 kills as her final game as a Rambler. Seniors Alex Nunez and Morgan Greshman ended their careers by being named the 2018 Missouri Valley Conference Volleyball Scholar Athlete Team. Nunez earned first-team recognition, meanwhile Greshman earned an honorable mention selection. Loyola finished its 2018 season with a 16-14 overall record, being its first winning season since 2015, as well as more than tripling its total wins from their 2017 season.
Loyola senior Lindsay Brewis finished her cross-country career with a run at the NCAA championships. Brewis is the second female Rambler to earn a berth to the national meet. She finished her run with a time of 22 minutes and 44.9 seconds. The Rambler took 56th place in a race of 255 runners. Her finish beats former Rambler Gina Volgai, who finished the 2012 championships in 104th place. Brewis looks ahead to the indoor track and field season beginning Friday, December 7th at the GVSU Holiday Open.
The Chicago Bulls are currently 5-17, and some are wondering if they should keep losing in order to get a higher draft pick in this year's NBA draft.
Nick Schultz and his Ramble analysts discuss whether or not the Bulls should tank in this week's Ramble.
Hi, welcome to this week's Ramble. I'm your host, Nick Schultz. I'm joined today by Connor Bergen and Adam Klepp. And today, we're talking about the Bulls. Oh, the Bulls. Well, they're not very good. They're 5-17 in the Eastern Conference. They're toward the bottom, but the question keeps coming up, though, about the NBA draft. Should the Bulls tank, lose the games on purpose, just to get a high draft pick? That's my question for you guys today. Connor, you're our returning champ. You go first.
I think the answer is obvious, Nick. They already have a young core, a strong nucleus of young players. Markkanen's only 21. Zach LaVine is a superstar, turning into a superstar at least. He's 23. Jabari Parker's 23. They just have a rookie, picked up Wendell Carter Jr. last year. They have a strong core that's already ready to start seeing what they can do. Tanking isn't a for sure certain deal that it works out. They did it last year and they only landed the 7th pick. The draft class is not as deep this year, so it would be very problematic if they end up trying to tank.
I mean, they had a good run last year, though. So, Adam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Bulls should definitely tank. I mean, you look around the league. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers, man. I mean, they tanked, bottomed out.
If you say trust the process,
I won't say trust the process.
Do you see how many times the process failed?
But it's working now. I mean, they got Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. They made a move for ex-Bull Jimmy Butler. They're at the top of the East. I mean, the NBA at its core is a players' league. It's a superstars league, and you need superstars to win, which is why the Bulls should tank, because Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, there are some really talented freshmen. Maybe the draft class isn't as deep, but the talent at the top is supreme.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Last year at this point, the Bulls were 3-19. Now they're 5-17. That's without Lauri Markkanen, Denzel Valentine, Chris Dunn, Bobby Portis. Wouldn't that mean that they're a little better than their record indicates?
This is my point. They're already better. They're showing signs of improvement. Chris Dunn is coming back soon. Lauri Markkanen is on his way back. He fully practiced yesterday. Once these players return, they're going to start showing their improvement. They need to learn how to win. And the only way to do that is to actually compete in games and not just lose on purpose.
This roster is not ready to compete in games. It's like we can shoot maybe for the 8th seed. Obviously, these guys have been out for a while. The record probably isn't as good as it is. But like, if you're not going for championships in this league or in any sport league at all, then what are you even doing? And if you think that Chris Dunn, Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and Jabari Parker, who's torn his ACL twice, I mean, if you think that these dudes are actually going to take you to the NBA championship, then, I mean, obviously try and win, compete. I just don't think that this roster is ready at all and needs a top talent.
All right, it's time for final thoughts. Adam, final statement. Go.
I mean, like I said before, you need to win championships. That doesn't matter whether let's win a few games and maybe get the 7th seed. I mean, I think Lauri Markkanen, he's a great young player, but I don't think he's a dude that is a transcendent superstar. And I think just dudes at the top of the draft like Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, they could be those top flight talents, and that's what you need to shoot for in the NBA.
And then Connor, you go ahead.
I think tanking is not a safe bet. There's no guarantee that they're going to get one of the top 3 picks, no matter how bad they are. They already have a strong core. Let them develop and learn how to win now, so when the time comes that they can compete for championships, they're ready.
All right. You guys both had really good points. This is a great topic of discussion. I got to go with Adam, though. I think the tank is on in full force in Chicago at the United Center. You're going to see some Duke players on the team next year if the Bulls don't find a way to screw it up. Now, let us know which side you're on by voting in our Twitter poll at Loyola RSL. That's all for this week's Ramble. I'm Nick Schultz. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Nick. We're just going to have to wait and see what they decide.
I disagree. I think the Bulls should give it their all. For our full episodes and the chance to get in on the conversation, follow and like our social media handles for an up-to-date look at all things Rambler Sports.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Patricia Martinez.
And I'm Epiphany Jonikin. Check back next week for another episode of the Rambler Sports Locker.
And as always, don't forget to turn off the lights.